Welcome back to Collective Perspective, episode 32. Craig, did you know that resellers are ruining the hobby?
Oh, that's unfortunate. How come nobody told me?
Um, we're just gonna have a short little video today discussing probably the most frequent comment I've gotten over the last few years of having this channel. A lot of y'all think that resellers are the problem with the prices going on in the video game collecting hobby. And when you don't think about those words, it seems like those are the people to blame. It seems like that makes sense. But
Hmm.
let's break it down a little bit. A reseller is a person who buys something and then throws it up on eBay for, what let me break it down in the way that people are meaning to say it. They're
Hmm.
saying that this person bought this game for $5 at a garage sale and is selling it for $500, right? That's what these people are calling a reseller. The problem with blaming people for a Pocky and Rocky 2 being $1,000 is they aren't making the prices.
The
Um,
buyers are the people paying that price are.
Spoiler alert. Yeah, it's me and Craig that you should be blaming. Really, we're the
Yeah.
ones buying these games. It's everyone, and so it's everyone but the sellers. To tell you the truth, as much as you want to blame the guy that's throwing this Super Nintendo cartridge up for way more than you want to pay or that you can afford, you know, it's the simple as supply and demand. Basically, a game isn't worth $1,000 because it's listed for $1,000, and a lot of times, if you're at a game store, I feel like this doesn't happen so much anymore, at least to me. But like, you used to go to a game store, somebody would be like, "Oh, I don't have a price on that game. Let me quickly look it up on eBay." I guess a better example would be like a convention, and so you have someone that doesn't have their stuff listed. They go look at like the first two listings on eBay and they don't look at any sold listings, and they're just like, oh yeah, let me price that at $1,400. It's not going to be worth anything unless someone pays that much for it. You think
Oh
of
yeah, the
something like,
value of a resold item comes from the people buying that resold item, not from resellers asking for a specific price. So, you could ask anything you want. You could be like, wow, I can't believe I looked up Earthbound on eBay and the first listing was for $600. That's crazy. People are spending that much money on that game, and that's where you got to be like, I'll stop you right there. Who said that anyone's spending that much money on that game? And unfortunately, a lot of times where that inflation will come from is, say there's an uncommon game, that's listed a little bit above price, and sometimes as collectors we get impatient and you're like, I want to buy this right now, even if it's a little overpriced, just because I want to get that game in my collection, or that's the only copy for sale right now, and I have the cash, so I'm going to spend it. It's really comes from the consumer more than the seller. Unfortunately, the sellers are getting their prices based off of what other people are buying for.
and that's just the way it is. That's very well put. We, as people buying this stuff, if something sells for $20 and then it sells for 22 and then it sells for 20 and 25 and like, that keeps going, but then it keeps just slowly going up. It's all based on somewhat like what the last person paid and like somewhat what the next person's going to pay. It's all averaging together to create this number that you see on like price charting. These price charting numbers don't just come from listings. They don't come at all from people listing stuff for way over what people are paying. It's
Hmm.
solely from what people are paying.
And it is hard because I understand the frustration because you gotta speak with your wallet in a way. Be like, I don't want to spend that much money on that game. It's overpriced, but you can't get everybody on the same page as you. So unfortunately, the price is coming from the buyers that are willing to spend that much, and it's not like we all as a collective, hobbyists together could be like, all right, we're not going to spend this much money on Earthbound, which is a notoriously overpriced game. It's like people want that game. It's been on the higher end for a long time, and because of that, people just in their brain is wired to think, oh, that's what that costs, so I'm gonna spend that much money on it. It's hard because once a game's expensive, it's hard for it to really devalue. It's hard. I mean, I can not think of many games that have devalued, significantly over time. It's just kind of how economics work, unfortunately, as things just get more expensive. And even, coming from the reseller idea of, if somebody finds a $5 game at a yard sale and it ends up being a $500 game, they flip it for $500. I mean, maybe I'm a jerk, but I don't really see that is a bad thing. I feel like that's that person's right. They found the deal, and it's up to them if they want to keep it or get rid of it. Maybe people disagree with me on that, but I mean, that's like when I bought, a pack of Pokemon cards a few months ago. I pulled a $400 card, and I was like, oh, cool, I didn't want this card, so I put it on eBay and sold it that same night. It's like if something is worth something on the secondhand market and you find a deal, I don't really think you could blame the person on finding the deal because, you're going out of your way trying to find that deal. You're putting in the work to get the item at a lower value price to make a profit. And unfortunately, everybody in the hobby of retro game collecting is a reseller or a supporter of reseller in some way. You go to your local game store, they're all technically resellers. You're going to sell your games to them for 100% of profit? No. They're going to give you either store credit around 50 or cash around 30, and then you're going to buy it for what it's fully worth, because that's just kind of how the cycle of the economics in the used market works, especially in this hobby. I mean, I'm sure most of us can't even say that we've ever sold most of our games at their full price charting value. I mean, that's just not really a common thing. So I understand the frustration, but I think we also have to understand that there's not really another way around it, and we really only have ourselves to blame, with the exception being, you think like Pokemon cards, like you have your Jake or Logan Pauls or whatever spending $500,000 on a Pokemon card. Of course, they're going to spend that money as a drop in the pond to them. But then I would argue that sale almost doesn't count towards the average value because 99% of people don't have that kind of money to blow. So, just because one Magic the Gathering or Pokemon card sold for $500,000, $600,000 and all the other ones sold for, $3,000, $4,000, I'd say that $3,000, $4,000 mark is still probably the accurate price that more people are going to go off of, because the likelihood of that selling for that amount again is never going to happen. I mean, we haven't seen another game sell even close to the Mario 64 a few years ago that sold for $1.5 million, and that's because most of us aren't rich, and that's just kind of the truth. I mean, I know I'm sure as hell not rich. I fund this hobby by basically cycling out what I want and what I don't want. If I decide I want to start collecting for another console or a game that I don't want, usually I have to fund that by selling some stuff I already have. And, that's just kind of the nature of this, unless you have, kind of like endless income, which most of us don't. And I get that we don't, and it's frustrating, because we all have games that we love and we want to own. But, I mean, realistically, none of us are ever going to own everything that we want. That's just the truth of it. So, kind of went on a tangent there, but I hope that made sense.
I really like the video game store example, and the fact that you just said that you have to sell stuff to buy other stuff, like that makes you a reseller right there, and you're not an
and I mean, we
being.
all do it. I can't imagine anybody that collects video games has not sold some of their video games.
Right.
At some point, whether it be for just more money or for something else. So,
the people that make these comments, it's like if you found like an actual thing that you could find at a Goodwill is like a Pokemon XD, which is stupidly like $100 right now. If you already had it, your options are buy it for $4 at Goodwill and then, resell it, or leave it there for the next person. And
yeah, because if you don't grab it and sell it or keep it, someone else is going to anyway. So you're not really hurting anybody by giving yourself the opportunity to gain from the luck of a good find.
No one is going to, in their right mind, just throw it up on eBay and be like, hey, I got this for $4, so $4, buy it now. No one's returning the favor. If
you're saying you are, you're a liar. You're a dirty liar. I don't believe you.
And something else I just thought about, it's not just, if you throw it up for auction, then you really have to blame the buyers, right? Like, you could start to argue maybe that this is a buy it now Pocky Rocky 2 for $1,000, and if that's my only option, then I'm going to buy it. But if someone listed it for $10 on auction, it's still going to go up there several $100s. And that means that people are literally setting the prices. The buyers are making these prices. I just feel like this is such a basic thing to understand, and if I could get two people to stop thinking with this video that the resellers are the problem here, that would be awesome.
And I mean, even if you want to make the argument, oh, well, not even retro stuff, more recent stuff like the Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster collection, is ridiculously expensive. The ESRB version didn't get a high print run. People are paying for it for $400 or $500. That's why it's selling for $400 or $500. So
yeah,
it's not even the people that bought it to resell it. Some people got the game because they actually wanted it, and then they saw how much it's reselling for, and they said, "Screw it, I'll get it digital. Get myself $500." I mean,
that's very true.
And I don't think a lot of people bought it with the intention of even reselling it. And if they did, I mean, unfortunately, that's their God-given right, too. That's how that works. And really, I think if most people wanted something like that, they had the opportunity. I could have bought the PS4 version special edition, 2 or 3 hours after it went on sale. So it's not like it went away like that. I mean, sometimes, if you want a special limited edition, it's limited. So you kind of just have to be there. That's just the nature of the beast. And I don't mean to, sound like, oh, you guys are all wrong, you guys are being stupid, yada, yada, yada. I'm just trying to give the perspective of, I think that us as hobbyists are a little bit more guilty for the reason that things are the way they are than we like to admit sometimes.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Like, you and I are part of the problem, and I think that that's just the truth of it. We're like, man, that game is stupid expensive. Buy it now. So, I mean, you and I have both done that. I'm sure plenty of you have done that. Anyone who's bought a Pokemon game has bought a game that's overpriced because they're all overpriced. It's just I think I understand the frustration, but we also got to take a little bit of accountability, because if we all truly put our foot down and put our money where our mouth is, we could make a little bit of a difference.
The only people who are not accountable are the ones that are putting all their games on an SD card and stealing them from the internet. The ROM people, the emulation people. That's the word.
Which is also partly me. So it's like I'm in both camps. I have my beautiful modded 3DS that I have loaded up with a bunch of games on there, and I mean, it's like I don't know. There's nothing wrong with that either. And if you just want to play the games and you think that they're stupid to pay that much money for them, by all means, you're not really stealing from anybody at this point anyway if they're not available on modern platforms. So
right,
if
but
you're concerned about playing an old game,
if that's your mindset, you're not watching this video.
That's fair. It's not for you anyway. But I just figured I'd make the comment to be like, I hear you guys too.
Anything else, Craig? I think that wraps it up pretty well.
No, like I said, I hope I didn't come off too harsh or accusatory, because that's not what I mean. I think, sometimes a little bit of self-reflection doesn't hurt either, of why things might be the way that they are.
If you want to blame somebody for modern games being sold out instantly, you can go at Nintendo America and just be like, why don't you print more of this? Like, Square Enix, can you please give me more Pixel remasters, please? Oh,
totally, because there's also absolutely no reason why they couldn't just make more. So
yeah.
I mean, clearly they're not losing money on this, and they're losing money because they're not selling their own copies and people are buying resold copies. So if you want to blame anybody on modern stuff, most of the time you got to blame the actual people publishing the games. So it's not like the NES days where it's like they had to basically risk, making a 300,000 cartridge run and then hope that they all sold, they don't go bankrupt. It's like all these companies are pretty fairly established. I mean, even Limited Run now. Limited Run doesn't even do limited pre-orders. They have, a 2-week window. That's pretty generous if you want what you want. That's why when things like Shantae on Switch sell for like $800, I'm just like, where were you guys for the 3 weeks you could have pre-ordered it? Nobody gets paid tri-weekly. So, it's
I used to get
possible.
Paid monthly, Craig. I used to get paid
insane.
Monthly.
That should be illegal. Like, oh man, I'm getting paid the week after Shantae. I hope it doesn't ever go up in price.
If that's a concern, y'all shouldn't be buying video games anyway. Y'all need to be saving your money.
I mean, at the end of the day, it is an expensive hobby. It's a very expensive hobby, and that sucks because that means it's not entirely inclusive. But that's just kind of the nature of life. Is not everything is inclusive. You know, you might want to be a musician, but or might want to be a guitarist or a music producer, but if you can't afford the equipment for it, I mean, then that hobby might not be for you until you could get to that stage in your life. And there's nothing wrong with that either. There's plenty of hobbies out there and plenty of things that can make you happy. But if your hobby has a large monetary entry point, then I mean that's kind of just the sad reality. And I'm not saying that to be mean, but that's just how money works.
All right, thank you guys for checking out episode 32. Go follow.
Yeah, it's our most
Craig.
hated episode. I can't wait to see all of our hate comments.
Go follow Craig at Craig's Game Room and join our Discord.
We're like, man, that game is stupid expensive. Buy it now.